The news traveled faster than light across the galaxy. In the space of hours, every major civilization received the same impossible report. The mighty Catharian Empire had been defeated by a primitive species from a small blue world. On the capital world of the Galactic Council, Supreme Chancellor Yarthek read the message 3 times before he believed it. The Catharians had been the strongest military force in known space for thousands of years. No one had ever defeated them in open battle. "Bring me everything we know about this species called humans," he ordered his assistants. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Kim Ji-won was working with the surviving Catharian officers to establish proper communication. The aliens spoke through a series of clicks and hisses, but their technology could translate their words into human languages. "You must understand," War Leader Kethvar said to her, "what you have done is impossible. No species fights the way you fight. No ships move the way your ships move." "What do you mean?" Ji-won asked. "Every civilization in the galaxy follows the same basic rules of warfare. Big ships, heavy armor, powerful weapons. We all learned from the same ancient wars, the same ancient victories and defeats." Kethvar activated a holographic display showing various alien species and their warships. "Look at these vessels. All different species, but they all build similar ships. They all fight in similar ways." Ji-won studied the display. Every ship looked roughly the same. Massive, heavily armored, bristling with weapons. "Why do they all look alike?" "Because that's what works," Kethvar replied. "Or what we thought worked. For millions of years, these designs have proven successful in battle after battle." "Until today," Ji-won said. "Until today," the alien agreed. On the New Busan, Admiral Park was dealing with a different kind of problem. His communication officers were being flooded with messages from across the galaxy. Dozens of alien species were trying to contact Earth. "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Lee reported, "we're receiving surrender offers from 12 different star systems. They're offering to submit to human rule without a fight." "Surrender offers?" Park was confused. "We haven't attacked anyone else." "Sir, I think they're afraid. Word of our victory has spread, and they assume we're going to start conquering the galaxy." Park thought about this. He had spent his career defending Earth, not conquering other worlds. The idea of ruling an interstellar empire had never occurred to him. "Send a message to all of them," he decided. "Tell them that humanity has no interest in conquest. We just want to be left alone." But the galaxy wasn't going to leave humanity alone. News of the battle had reached the Galactic Council, and they were sending their fastest ships to Earth. Engineer Nam Soo-jin was in her workshop studying the quantum drive technology with new understanding. The battle had shown her something amazing about human engineering. "We built these drives wrong," she told her assistant. "I mean, we built them right for what we wanted to do, but we didn't understand what we were actually creating." "What do you mean?" "We designed the quantum drives to help us explore space safely. We wanted to avoid dangerous areas, to phase out of normal space when we encountered problems." Nam activated a technical display. "But what we actually created was a way to think differently about space and time." She pointed to the quantum field equations. "Every other species in the galaxy thinks of space as something fixed, something you move through. But our drives let us treat space as something flexible, something we can bend and shape. And that's why we won the battle. That's exactly why we won. The aliens were fighting according to the old rules of physics, but we were fighting according to new rules that we made up as we went along." Captain Yang Hyejin was aboard one of the captured Catharian ships, helping to rescue survivors. She was amazed by the size of the alien vessel. It was larger than some cities on Earth. "How do you coordinate something this big?" she asked a Catharian engineer. "Coordination?" The alien seemed confused by the question. "Each ship fights independently. That is the honorable way. But how do you work together? How do you support each other in battle?" "Support? We do not understand this word in military context." Yang realized something important. "You don't fight as a team. Each ship is on its own, of course. A warrior must prove his worth through individual combat. To rely on others would be shameful." "But that's why you lost," Yang said. "We work together. Every human ship supports every other human ship." The alien engineer looked at her with something like wonder. "Your species fights as one organism. This is unprecedented." Captain Choi Daeho was monitoring galactic communications from his ship when he detected something alarming. Military fleets from dozens of different species were moving toward Earth. "Admiral Park," he called urgently. "We have a problem." I'm detecting massive fleet movements throughout the galaxy. They're all heading in our direction. How many ships? Park asked. Sir, I count at least 50 different fleets. Some of them are larger than the Catharian force we just defeated. Park felt a chill run down his spine. Are they coming to attack us? I don't think so, sir. The communication traffic suggests they're coming to negotiate. Negotiate what? Sir, I think they want to surrender to us. Dr. Kim Ji-won received the first formal diplomatic message 3 hours later. It came from the Galactic Council, and its tone was both respectful and fearful. To the human species of the world called Earth, the message began. We, the representatives of the Galactic Council, request permission to send a diplomatic mission to your system. We wish to discuss terms for peaceful coexistence. Terms for peaceful coexistence? Admiral Park read the message aloud. They're talking like we're the ones with the big fleet. Sir, Lieutenant Commander Lee said, in a way we are. We just proved that our small fleet can defeat anything in the galaxy. But we don't want to conquer anyone. They don't know that, sir. More messages arrived throughout the day. The Zorelian Republic offered to share their advanced medical technology in exchange for a non-aggression pact. The Stellar Federation proposed a trade agreement that heavily favored Earth. The Crystalline Empire offered to pay tribute to humanity. This is crazy, Park said after reading the 20th surrender offer. We fought one battle to defend our home, and now half the galaxy wants to give up to us. Engineer Nam had been thinking about this problem. Admiral, I think I understand what's happening. Every species in the galaxy has been fighting the same way for millions of years. They all have the same weaknesses, the same blind spots. Go on. When we defeated the Catharians, we didn't just beat one empire. We proved that the entire galactic way of warfare is outdated. Every species that saw our battle data realized that their own fleets would be just as helpless against our tactics. So they're surrendering because they think we could beat them too. Exactly. And they're probably right. Admiral Park looked out at the stars, thinking about the responsibility that had just fallen on humanity's shoulders. A few days ago, Earth had been an unknown world on the edge of the galaxy. Now they were apparently the most feared military power in known space. Sir, Lieutenant Commander Lee said, what are your orders? How do we handle this? Park was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. We do what humans have always done when faced with the unknown. We learn, we explore, we make friends. Sir, send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them that Earth accepts their request for diplomatic contact. Tell them that humanity is interested in learning about the galaxy, not conquering it. And if they don't believe us, then we'll prove it to them. The same way we proved we could defend ourselves. As the messages were sent out across the galaxy, humanity prepared for its next great adventure, learning to live among the stars as equals, not conquerors. The battle had ended, but the real challenge was just beginning. Admiral Park watched the battle unfold from his command chair on the new Busan. The tactical display showed something that should have been impossible. His small fleet of 200 ships was winning against 11,000 alien warships. Sir, Lieutenant Commander Lee reported, we've destroyed 4,000 enemy vessels. They're starting to break formation. Park nodded, but he wasn't celebrating yet. He had learned in his long military career that the most dangerous moment in any battle was when the enemy realized they were losing. All ships, he broadcast, maintain formation. Don't get overconfident. The enemy still outnumbers us 3-1. On the Catharian flagship, Grand Admiral Voxthul was experiencing something he had never felt before. Panic. His mighty fleet, the pride of the Empire, was being torn apart by ships that shouldn't even exist on his sensors. War Leader Kethvar, he called. Order all ships to focus fire on the largest human vessel. If we can destroy their flagship, maybe their coordination will break down. Sir, which ship is their flagship? We can't tell them apart when they keep disappearing and reappearing. Voxthul stared at the display. The human ships all looked similar. Small, fast, and constantly phasing in and out of reality. There was no obvious command ship, no massive dreadnought that clearly led the others. They're all the same size, he realized. They don't have a flagship. They don't follow our command structure at all. Meanwhile, engineer Nam Soo-jin was making adjustments to the quantum drive system in real time. She had discovered something amazing during the battle. The quantum field was becoming stronger as more ships joined the network. Admiral, she called over the intercom, the quantum entanglement is creating a feedback loop. The more ships we have in the network, the more powerful each individual ship becomes. What does that mean? Park asked. It means our ships are getting harder to hit and more accurate with their weapons as the battle continues. The enemy's advantage in numbers is actually working against them. Captain Yang Hyejin was leading her squadron in an attack against a cluster of Catharian heavy cruisers. The Gangnung phased into normal space directly above the enemy formation, fired a spread of missiles, then disappeared before the aliens could respond. At the same instant, Captain Choi Daeho's ship, the Sejong, materialized below the same formation and fired its main guns. The coordinated attack came from two directions at once, overwhelming the Catharian defenses. "This is incredible," Yang said over the radio. "It's like we can read each other's minds." "That's exactly what's happening," came Engineer Nam's voice. "The quantum entanglement isn't just linking your ships. It's linking your thoughts. You're all thinking as one mind." Dr. Kim Ji-won was monitoring the battle from Earth when she noticed something strange in the sensor data. "Computer, show me the quantum field distribution around the human fleet." The display changed to show waves of energy flowing between the human ships. But the pattern was unlike anything she had seen before. "It's not random," she said to her assistant. "The quantum fields are forming complex patterns. It's almost like what, Doctor? Like they're forming a single distributed brain. Each ship is like a neuron, and they're all connected by quantum entanglement." She activated her communication system. "Admiral Park, this is Dr. Kim on Earth. You need to hear this." "Go ahead, Doctor." "Sir, your fleet isn't just working together. It's actually becoming a single intelligent organism. The quantum entanglement is creating something that's never existed before. A group mind that spans multiple spaceships." On the new Busan Bridge, this news was received with amazement. Lieutenant Commander Lee looked at her sensor readings with new understanding. "That explains why our coordination is so perfect," she said. "We're not just communicating with each other. We're actually sharing consciousness." The battle continued, but now the human crews understood what was happening to them. They weren't just individual ships fighting together. They had become something new, a collective intelligence that could think and act as one. Grand Admiral Voxthal watched his fleet die around him. In 2 hours of fighting, he had lost 7,000 ships. His remaining vessels were scattered across space, their formation completely broken. "Sir," War Leader Kethvar said quietly, "we should consider retreat." "Retreat?" Voxthal turned to stare at his second-in-command. "The Catharian Empire has never retreated. Not once in 3,000 years. Sir, with respect, the Catharian Empire has never faced an enemy like this." As if to prove his point, a group of human ships suddenly materialized around the Eternal Dominion. The flagship was surrounded by 50 small vessels that had appeared from nowhere. "Shields up," Voxthal ordered. "All weapons, fire at will." The massive ship's guns fired in all directions. But the human ships were already gone, replaced by a different group attacking from the opposite side. The Eternal Dominion's weapons hit empty space while human missiles struck its armor. Captain Choi Daeho had an idea that was either brilliant or insane. "Admiral Park requesting permission to attempt something unprecedented." "What is it, Choi?" "Sir, what if we could phase one of our ships directly inside an enemy vessel? Not just near it, but actually inside it." There was silence on the radio for a moment. Then Engineer Nam's voice came through. "It's theoretically possible, but it would be incredibly dangerous. If the quantum field collapsed while the ship was inside solid matter, the ship would be destroyed instantly." Park finished. "Choi, why do you want to try this?" "Sir, their flagship is heavily armored. We can't break through from the outside. But if we could get inside..." Park made his decision. "Do it. But be careful." Captain Choi modified his ship's quantum field, adjusting it for precise materialization. The Sejong disappeared from normal space, then reappeared in what should have been an impossible location, inside the Eternal Dominion's bridge. Grand Admiral Voxthal stared in shock as a human ship materialized in the middle of his command center. Catharian officers dove for cover as the Sejong's weapons powered up. "Grand Admiral?" Captain Choi's voice came over the communication system. "I believe it's time to discuss surrender." Voxthal looked around his bridge. Half his officers were unconscious from the shock of the ship's sudden appearance. His weapons couldn't fire without destroying his own bridge. He was completely helpless. For the first time in the history of the Catharian Empire, a Grand Admiral surrendered. "All ships," Voxthal broadcast on all frequencies, "cease fire. We surrender. Across the battlefield, the fighting stopped. Catharian ships powered down their weapons and raised surrender flags. The human fleet maintained their positions, still ready to fight but no longer attacking. Admiral Park couldn't believe what he was seeing on his tactical display. Of the 12,000 ships that had come to conquer Earth, fewer than 2,000 remained intact. The rest were debris floating in space. "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Lee said softly, "we did it. We actually won." Park nodded, but he was thinking about the future. This victory would change everything. Humanity was no longer just another primitive species. They had become something that the galaxy had never seen before. "Open a channel to all human ships," he ordered. "Channel open, sir. This is Admiral Park to all vessels. Today we have achieved the impossible. We have shown the galaxy that humanity will not be conquered. But remember, this is just the beginning. Word of this battle will spread to every corner of space. From now on, Earth will never be unknown again." He paused, looking out at the stars that no longer seemed so distant. "We are no longer alone in the universe, and the universe will never be the same." Grand Admiral Voxthul stared at the battle reports in disbelief. 500 ships destroyed. Only 37 survivors from his advance guard. All destroyed by a primitive species that shouldn't even have real weapons. "This is impossible," he said for the 10th time. War leader Kethvar stood nearby, his face pale. "Sir, the survivors are all saying the same thing. The human ships could appear and disappear at will. Our weapons couldn't hit them. Ships don't just disappear." Voxthul slammed his fist on the command table. "There must be another explanation. Maybe they have allies helping them. Maybe another empire is using the humans as a distraction. Sir, what are your orders?" Voxthul looked out at his remaining fleet. Nearly 12,000 ships still floated in space, waiting for his command. Surely no primitive species could stand against such power. "We advance with the full fleet," he decided. "Whatever trick they used won't work against our main force. We'll destroy them all." Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Kim Ji-won was studying the battle data in her laboratory. She had watched the entire fight through long-range sensors, and what she saw amazed her. "It's incredible," she told her assistant. "The human ships moved like a living creature, like a school of fish avoiding a predator." "What do you mean, Doctor?" "Look at this data." She pointed to her computer screen. Each ship knew where all the other ships were, even when they were in quantum phase. They coordinated their attacks perfectly, striking the same target from multiple directions at exactly the same time. "How is that possible?" Ji-won smiled. "It's the quantum entanglement communication system. When our ships phase shift, they become quantum entangled with each other. They share information instantly, faster than light." She pulled up another display. "The aliens build their ships for individual combat. Each ship fights alone like knights in single combat. But humans always work together. Even our technology reflects that." On the new Busan, engineer Nam Soo-jin was making final adjustments to the quantum drive systems. The battle had shown that her modifications worked, but she wanted to make them even better. "Admiral Park," she called over the intercom. "I have an idea." "What is it, Nam?" "What if we could link all our ships together through the quantum field? Make them act like one giant organism instead of separate vessels?" Park arrived in the engine room 5 minutes later. "Explain." "Sir, right now each ship can phase in and out of normal space independently. But if I modify the quantum resonance frequency, I can make all our ships share the same quantum state." "What would that do?" "It would mean that when one ship phases out, it could reappear anywhere in our formation. A ship could start an attack run on one side of the battlefield and finish it on the other side. The enemy would never know where our attacks are coming from." Park thought about this. "What are the risks? If something goes wrong with the quantum field, we could lose all our ships at once instead of just one." Nam paused. "But sir, if we don't try this, I don't think we can win against their main fleet." "Do it," Park ordered. Across the human fleet, ships began linking their quantum systems together. It was dangerous work. One mistake could tear a ship apart at the molecular level. But the human crews worked with calm precision, knowing that their species' survival depended on their success. Captain Yang Hyejin felt the change when her ship's quantum drive connected to the fleet network. Suddenly she could sense the location of every other human vessel, even when they were phased out of normal space. "This is amazing," she told her crew. "It's like we're all part of the same mind." Captain Choi Daeho was monitoring Catharian communications when the alien main fleet began moving. All ships, he broadcast, the enemy is advancing. 11,500 ships moving in standard battle formation. Admiral Park studied the tactical display. The Catharian fleet was arranged in a massive wall of ships, each one protecting the others. It was an impressive sight, but Park saw its weakness. They're still thinking like they're fighting other big ships, he told Lieutenant Commander Lee. They expect us to form our own battle line and fight them ship to ship. What's our strategy, sir? We don't form a battle line. We swarm them, like angry bees attacking a bear. The two fleets met in the space between Mars and Jupiter. The Catharian formation stretched across millions of kilometers, a wall of steel and weapons that seemed impossible to defeat. But the human ships didn't try to match their formation. Instead, they scattered across the battlefield, phasing in and out of reality in seemingly random patterns. Grand Admiral Voxthal watched in confusion as human ships appeared throughout his fleet. They weren't attacking in formation. They weren't following any battle plan he understood. They just seemed to be everywhere at once. Target the human ships, he ordered. Sir, which ones? They're scattered across our entire formation. That was the point. The human ships were using their quantum link to coordinate attacks that seemed impossible. A ship would begin an attack run on the left side of the Catharian fleet, phase out of normal space, and reappear on the right side to complete the attack. Another ship would appear above a Catharian vessel, fire its weapons, then phase out and reappear below a different target. The Catharians tried to respond with their traditional tactics. They fired massive volleys of weapons at the areas where human ships had been seen, but the humans were never there when the weapons arrived. Captain Yang led a coordinated strike against a Catharian dreadnought. Her ship, the Gangneung, appeared directly in front of the enemy vessel and fired at its bridge. At the same moment, 3 other human ships materialized at different positions around the same target, all firing at once. The Catharian ship, built to withstand attacks from one direction, couldn't handle attacks from 4 directions at the same time. Its armor cracked, then shattered. The ship broke apart in a brilliant explosion. Target destroyed. Yang reported, moving to next target. All across the battlefield, similar scenes were playing out. Catharian ships that had conquered 100 worlds were being destroyed by an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't predict, and couldn't fight. Engineer Nam monitored the quantum field from her station on the New Busan. The system was working perfectly. The human ships moved through space like a single organism, striking with precision that no traditional fleet could match. Admiral, she reported, the quantum link is stable. Our ships are operating at maximum efficiency. Park nodded, watching the tactical display. Red dots representing Catharian ships were disappearing rapidly. In 30 minutes, the aliens had lost over 1,000 vessels, but the human fleet was just getting started. Dr. Kim Ji-won observed the battle from Earth's orbital defense platform. What she saw changed her understanding of warfare forever. The human ships weren't just fighting as individuals. They were fighting as a collective intelligence, sharing information and coordinating attacks with perfect timing. It's beautiful, she whispered to herself. They're like a dance in space. Grand Admiral Voxthal realized that his empire's greatest strength had become its greatest weakness. His ships were designed to fight other ships that followed the same rules. But humans didn't follow any rules at all. Sir, War Leader Kethavar reported, we've lost 3,000 ships. Our formation is falling apart. Voxthal looked at the tactical display. His perfect battle formation was in chaos. Human ships appeared and disappeared throughout his fleet like ghosts, destroying his vessels faster than he could count. For the first time in his long military career, Grand Admiral Voxthal began to understand what fear felt like. Grand Admiral Voxthal stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. The ship was massive, stretching for kilometers through space. Its armor was thick enough to stop planet-killing weapons. Its guns could destroy entire fleets with a single shot. Behind him, the Catharian fleet moved through space like a dark cloud. 12,000 ships, each one a masterpiece of war. For 3,000 years, this empire had conquered world after world. No enemy had ever defeated them. Report, Voxthal commanded. His second-in-command, War Leader Kethvar, stepped forward. Sir, we are 2 days from the target world. Our scouts have analyzed their defenses. And they have only 200 ships, my lord. Small vessels, poorly armed. They appear to be converted mining and research craft. Voxthal laughed. It was a cold sound that echoed through the bridge. 200 ships? Against our 12,000? This will be the shortest conquest in our history. Sir, another officer spoke up. Should we send terms of surrender again? No, Voxthul said. Let them see our full fleet first. Let them understand how hopeless their situation is. Fear will make them surrender faster. On Earth, Captain Choi Daeho was working frantically in his ship's communications center. The Sejong had the most advanced listening equipment in the human fleet. For hours, he had been intercepting Catharian transmissions. Hana, you need to see this, he called to Lieutenant Commander Lee over the radio. What did you find? Lee's voice crackled through the speaker. I've been listening to their battle plans. These aliens fight like they're still in the old days. They line up their big ships and shoot at each other until somebody dies. What do you mean? Their whole strategy is based on having bigger, stronger ships than the enemy. They've never fought anyone who uses different tactics. Captain Choi sent the data to the New Busan. Minutes later, his radio came alive. This is Admiral Park. Good work, Choi. What else can you tell us? Sir, their weapons are powerful, but they're slow. They're designed to hit big targets that can't move quickly. Their computers assume that enemy ships will fly in straight lines. Interesting. What about their defenses? Their armor is incredibly thick, but it's all on the front and sides of their ships. They don't expect attacks from above or below, and they definitely don't expect attacks from inside their formation. Meanwhile, engineer Nam Soo-jin was working in the New Busan's engine room. She had been awake for 36 hours straight, modifying the quantum drive systems. Her hands were covered in grease and her eyes were red from staring at computer screens. How's it going? Admiral Park asked as he entered the engine room. Good news and bad news. Sir? Nam replied without looking up from her work. Give me the good news first. The good news is that I figured out how to make our ships even harder to hit. I can make the quantum field unstable so our ships will flicker in and out of reality. And the bad news? The bad news is that it will be dangerous for our crews. The quantum fields might affect human biology. We could get sick or worse. Park was quiet for a moment. How sick? I don't know, Nam admitted. We've never tested this before, but I think it's worth the risk. Do it, Park decided. Install the modifications on all ships. Across the fleet, human crews worked around the clock. They installed Nam's quantum modifications. They loaded every weapon they had. They said goodbye to their families in video messages that might never be sent. Captain Yang Hyejin was in her ship's medical bay, getting a dose of anti-radiation medicine. The doctor, an older man named Kim Byum-soo, was worried. Captain, these quantum modifications could be dangerous, he said. We don't know what prolonged exposure will do to the human body. Dr. Kim, if we don't use these modifications, we'll all be dead in 2 days anyway, Yang replied. I'd rather take the risk. Just promise me you'll be careful. I promise. The next day, the Catharian advance guard arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. 500 ships, each one the size of a small city. Their commander, Battle Lord Zexton, was confident this would be an easy victory. Human vessels, he broadcast on all frequencies. You are surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. On the New Busan, Admiral Park received the message. He looked around his bridge at his officers. These people had served with him for years. They trusted him to make the right decision. All ships, he said into the radio. This is Admiral Park. Activate quantum drives. Show these aliens how humans fight. Across the human fleet, quantum drives hummed to life. The ships began to flicker, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. On Catharian sensors, the human vessels seemed to vanish completely. What's happening? Battle Lord Zexthun demanded of his sensor officer. Sir, the human ships have disappeared from our screens. Our weapons can't lock onto them. That's impossible. Ships can't just disappear. But they had disappeared. And now they were doing something that no Catharian had ever seen before. The human ships began to appear inside the Catharian formation. They materialized behind enemy vessels, fired their weapons, then vanished again before the Catharians could respond. It was like fighting smoke. Target the human ships, Zexthun shouted. Sir, we can't target what we can't see. The Catharian weapons fired at empty space. Their massive guns, designed to destroy other massive ships, hit nothing. Meanwhile, human vessels appeared and disappeared like lightning, striking weak points in the Catharian armor. Captain Yang led her ship, the Gangnung, on a daring attack run. She phased her ship directly above a Catharian cruiser, fired at its unprotected top, then vanished before the enemy could react. The alien ship exploded in a ball of fire. "Did you see that?" she called over the radio. "We got one!" All across the battlefield, human ships were striking and disappearing. The Catharians had never faced an enemy like this. Their computers couldn't track targets that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Their tactics were useless against an enemy that could appear anywhere. In 10 minutes, 50 Catharian ships were destroyed. In 20 minutes, it was 100. The advance guard that was supposed to crush human resistance was being torn apart by invisible attackers. Battle Lord Zexthon watched his fleet die around him. His massive flagship, the Galaxy's End, was hit by weapons fire from 6 different directions at once. The human ships had somehow coordinated an attack that came from everywhere and nowhere. "Retreat," he finally ordered. "All ships retreat!" But it was too late. Only a few dozen Catharian ships managed to escape. The rest were floating debris. On the New Busan, Admiral Park watched the battle results come in. Not a single human ship had been lost, not even damaged. "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Lee said, "the enemy advance guard has been completely destroyed." Park nodded, but he wasn't celebrating yet. This was just the beginning. The main fleet is still coming, and now they know we're not as helpless as they thought. But for the first time since the aliens had been detected, Park allowed himself to hope. Maybe, just maybe, humanity had a chance after all. The stars looked different today. Dr. Kim Ji-won pressed her face closer to the observation window at the Seoul Space Defense Center. Something was wrong with the deep space sensors. The readings showed impossible numbers. "Run the scan again," she told her assistant. "This can't be right." The young technician's hands shook as he worked the controls. "Dr. Kim, I've run it 5 times. The results are the same." Ji-won stared at the screen. 12,000 objects were moving toward Earth. They were big, much bigger than anything humans had ever built. And they were coming fast. She grabbed the emergency phone. "Get me Admiral Park Min-soo, now." 20 minutes later, Admiral Park stood in the sensor room. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent his whole life preparing for this moment, but he never thought it would really happen. "How long do we have?" he asked. 3 days, Ji-won said. "Maybe less." Park looked at the display showing Earth's defense fleet. 200 ships. Most of them were old mining vessels that had been turned into warships. A few were research ships with weapons bolted onto them. It was all humanity had. "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Lee Hana stepped forward. She was young but smart. Park trusted her more than most of his senior officers. "What are your orders?" Park was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his daughter who was studying art in Tokyo. He thought about his wife who grew flowers in their small garden. He thought about all the people on Earth who had no idea that death was coming from the stars. "Contact all ship commanders," he said finally. "Emergency meeting in 1 hour." The meeting room on the space station was crowded. Ship captains filled every seat. Some had come up from Earth in shuttles. Others had traveled from the asteroid mines or the research stations near Jupiter. Captain Choi Dae-ho was there. His ship, the Sejong, was one of the newer research vessels. Captain Yang Hyejin commanded the Gangneung, a fast ship that usually carried supplies to the outer colonies. Engineer Nam Soo-jin had come from the New Busan, the flagship of the human fleet. "Friends," Admiral Park began, "we are about to face the greatest challenge in human history." He activated the display. The alien fleet appeared as red dots moving through space. Each dot represented a ship larger than anything humans had ever imagined building. "We call them the Catharian Empire," Park continued. "We know very little about them, but we know they're coming here to conquer Earth." Captain Choi raised his hand. "Sir, how do we know they want to conquer us?" "Maybe they just want to talk." Park's face was grim. "An hour ago they sent us a message. They gave us terms for surrender." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. "What did the message say?" asked Captain Yang. "They want us to give up all our weapons. They want our leaders to come to their ships as prisoners. They want us to provide workers for their empire." Park paused. "They said if we refuse, they will destroy every city on Earth." Engineer Nam stood up. She was a small woman, but she had a strong voice. "Admiral, what chance do we have? 200 ships against 12,000. Honestly? Almost none." Park looked around the room. "But we're going to fight anyway." "Why?" asked Captain Choi. "If we can't win, why not surrender? At least some people would live." Park smiled sadly. "Because that's not who we are. Humans don't give up. We've never given up. When the Ice Age came, we didn't give up. When diseases killed millions, we didn't give up. When wars destroyed our cities, we built them again. He activated another display. This one showed the human fleet in detail. They think we're weak because our ships are small. They think we're stupid because we're new to space travel. They think we'll be easy to defeat because we don't have their big weapons. Lieutenant Commander Lee stepped forward. Sir, we do have one advantage they don't know about. The quantum drives, Park nodded. Tell them, Lee. Lee activated a new display. Every human ship has a quantum resonance drive. We built them for exploration, not for war. They let us travel through space in ways that other species have never tried. What do you mean? Asked Captain Yang. Our ships can phase in and out of normal space, Lee explained. We can become like ghosts. We can appear in one place, then disappear and appear somewhere else instantly. Engineer Nam's eyes lit up. I helped design those drives. They were meant to help us explore dangerous areas of space. We never thought of using them in battle. Well, now we have to, Park said. It's our only chance. Captain Choi frowned. But sir, we've never used the quantum drives in combat. We don't know if they'll work against enemy weapons. Then we'll find out, Park replied. Lee, what's your plan? Lee activated the tactical display. The Catharian ships are huge. That makes them slow. Their weapons are designed to fight other big ships. If we can stay small and fast, we might be able to hit them and disappear before they can hit us back. Like mosquitoes attacking elephants, Captain Yang said. Exactly, Lee smiled. Mosquitoes are small, but enough of them can bring down anything. Admiral Park looked around the room. These were good people. They were brave, but they were also scared. He could see it in their eyes. I won't lie to you, he said. Most of us will probably die. This enemy has conquered hundreds of worlds. They've destroyed entire civilizations. They think humans are just another weak species to be crushed. He paused, then continued with a stronger voice. But they don't know about human stubbornness. They don't know that we never give up even when we should. They don't know that we fight hardest when everything seems hopeless. Engineer Nam raised her hand. Admiral, I have an idea. What if we modify the quantum drives? What if we can make them work better in combat? What do you mean? I mean, what if we can make our ships even harder to hit? What if we can make them work together in ways the enemy won't expect? Park nodded. Do it. You have 2 days. Sir, Captain Choi said, what about our families? What about the people on Earth? They're counting on us, Park replied. All of humanity is counting on us. We're the only thing standing between Earth and slavery. The meeting ended. The captains returned to their ships. In 2 days they would face an enemy that had never lost a battle, but they were human. And humans had a long history of doing impossible things.